right over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Becky.
This is Dave and
Mickey.
Shiny Side Out on WCCR, coming to you from a guy who didn't unpress the mute button, from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. It is home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and or conversations in the chat room, and it's also a great place to get your merch. That's station-related merch from freedomslips.com. This is show number 537.
730 and 500.
That sounds really good. Catch us on air, online, and anywhere on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. If you missed Solaris's show, well, you know what? You don't have to fret. Don't fret. I'll tell you who she had on. She had Steve Colburn on tonight, and they were talking about alien implants, of which I believe I have one at least, whether it's a mill, what was that, mill up thing, or it's true alien, I don't know.
My lab, you mean?
My lab, thank you very much, yes. So if it's my lab or alien, I'm not sure, but someone called the physician who was attempting to remove it and told him to stop.
Hang on. You know,
while he was cutting into it.
Yes, tell the whole story. I mean, this is just nuts.
I will after the intro. So, the current access cost to the archives at the station, where you can find Solaris's shows, because you might have missed tonight's one, or you might have missed one of ours, because she always has awesome shows with awesome guests and great topics. And it's really good. And you don't have to fret and miss it. You can just jump into the archives for free and check them out. And not only can you check out her shows or our shows, but all of the host shows. And there is an incredible breadth of information and opinions, let me say, across all of the hosts that do have shows with Revolution Radio. And, you know, you'll find something, I promise, that you like. And if you find anything you like, then you should donate to the station, because it isn't free to run it. It is listener supported. That means we aren't being told what to say by a sponsor, which is unique, I think, in today's media climate. Anyway, welcome to country. I'm broadcasting out of Darkinjung country and Meki.
Derek.
And we, because we live in Australia and we've done our research, we know which mobs, or you could say clans, depending on where you are, tribes also is an equivalent term. We've done our research. We know who they are. We do understand that they looked after the land a hell of a lot more than we did, that we have done. And when you compare the two, ours is pretty awful. We've basically put our country on the street corner and we're making profit off it. That's the kindest way I can say it. And that honestly, this is NAIDOC week too, and that appalls me so bad it isn't funny. I'm not sure there's another way to put it. Anyway, having said that, we do pay our respects to the elders of our respective mobs, and across the land, past, present, and future. So Meki, yeah, the story, right? So, I had missing hair on the side of my head around about a silver dollar in America, or a 50-cent piece here, and I went to see a specialist. And while he's given me 50 injections into the location that didn't even have hair follicles anymore, they used to. It did. They were there. In the past, he goes, it looks like the palm of your hand. There's not a single hair follicle there on the side of your head.
It's called evolution, Dave. It's called evolution.
Evolution. Well, he was going to have none of that. Yeah. So what he did, he gave me steroidal injections locally, 50 of them. I felt like a pincushion. And I said, look, while I'm here, have a look on say the tricep of my left arm. Have a look at this thing. And there's something under the skin. I don't know what it is. It's been there for maybe 20 years. Have a look and see. And he goes, I said, there was a time when it wasn't there, and then suddenly it was there, and nothing had happened in between. And he goes, yeah, I can feel it. It's like it's square. I go, I know, right? How on earth? There's not even a scar. There's no entry word.
It's scars. This was yesterday.
So I'm holding, because it's only me, right? And so when he decided he was going to commence cutting me open to get this thing out, he called his on the phone a couple of paces away. He called the doctor's receptionist and said, "Look, don't let anyone in. Don't disturb me. I'm doing some surgery." Right. And then he hung the phone up and walked back, and he's talking to me and telling me about all these really funny things that happens in his life, right? All these people. He didn't name the people. And he was so old, he was like he was about to retire this minute.
Right? He's 5,000 years old.
Right.
If he was a day.
And it was in the eastern suburbs, just so you know the kind of fellow and how expensive it is.
Right.
Like $400 an hour or some ridiculous thing, right?
Understood, yeah.
Yeah. And here he is, he's cutting away and he's laughing, and he's made the slice, and I felt the knife blade, even though I was really super heavily
anesthetized.
Right. And it was okay. It was only local on my arm, and there's blood, profuse amount of blood's coming out of this, right? And I'm holding with my other arm the suction device, which he's placed, but I can't see, and you hear it. It's taking all this blood, and I'm watching.
Hang on, you're actually working during your operation.
Yeah. I should have got a discount.
Did you get a cut?
No.
See what I did there?
I know, right? But if we'd been buddy breathing, maybe the nitrous oxide, I might have got in on that. But anyway, so as soon as the knife blade hits it and the sharp scalpel penetrates the sac that he was talking to me about that was around this object, the phone rings, and he's like, "Oh, I told her don't disturb me." And he walks over, he picks the phone up and says, "Hello." I said not to disturb me, and then his demeanor changed. He pivoted on his heels, looks me directly in the eye while he's listening to the instructions, and just says, right, and hangs the phone up and comes over to me and goes, we'll just stitch you up. And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, we'll just leave it there." Right? Really? We were so close. No, it said, "You'll be right." And
you'll be right.
And
is
that's
this
it.
A medical profession? Is this your steam diagnosis?
Is there somebody else I can talk to?
I'm feeling less than confident.
It was his professionalism that I respected.
I was put off by the smell, but isn't that? But see, the thing is this, right?
Left it in. It's still there today. Yeah. But it somehow became decommissioned, and another one was put in on my neck.
Oh well, that's kind of reassuring, because Dave will never know what we did here.
That's right. Hang on. I've got a new one. What happened to that?
What?
Yeah.
Nothing to see here. We fooled him good, I say.
Wait. Back then, when I was only questioning all these crazy things in my life, where I kind of really had a clue what it was, today I would probably prefer that they knew where I was. In today's climate, I probably prefer that. Yeah.
Right? How long ago was this, Dave?
Whoa, this is 96.
96. Okay, so it's a significant amount of time ago. Now, just to be clear, we didn't have the tech yet perfected to put, officially anyway, to put anything in anybody's body of that kind of thing, of that nature, any kind of microchipping, or that wasn't really a thing yet. The body's immune system would react too strongly and expel it, or you might get a really bad infection. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't have been done with more advanced technology, obviously. But just to be clear, this is an unusual thing. What kicks me though is that this is because this is completely next level. This is not somebody calling Dave because someone is tampering with Dave. This is not someone calling his house. Because we know that thing is in Dave. Right? Did you have a mobile phone back then? Maybe not.
96. I had the first. I was an early adopter, so yes, I had one of the Nokia candles.
Yeah. Yes. Look, same. But the point is, they didn't call that. They called the doctor.
That's right, because that means they knew where I was.
Bingo. So clearly some kind of geolocation thing, number one. But not only that, it's not geolocation that goes, oh, Dave is in Sydney. Give or take 5 kilometers.
No, that's to the meter.
This is not just to the meter. This is also if we're up on the ground floor, second floor. But the point I'm making is this was a 3-dimensional geolocation device. So in the 3 dimensions, not just on a flat plane. Oh yeah, Dave is here. Goes the pin. Where? How high up is he? He's in the ground. Don't know. Yes, we do. And then also, and clearly, this is so fast. Whatever this is, the system, right? That it direct dials the doctor, because obviously, you know the sensor.
You're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. The sensor must have registered some interference or threat to itself or who knows what, right? And then it goes, oh, beep, 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 something's going on. Here's my exact location. This is where I am right now. And hey, presto. Now, this kind of tech, even today, is very impressive. And the speed of response is very impressive, right?
That was, I think that was the thing that was the most incredible. Like today, to be able to isolate someone, yes, you could do that if you had an agent on it, right? The location of the mobile phone, that would be sufficient. If you already knew anything about the person, like say you had a CIA handler, they'd know your location anyway.
Yeah.
But then have the alarm go off and then make contact with that person, that's something else.
Look, that's it.
Yeah.
Now, again, look, it is what it is, and there it is, and people can say and believe whatever they like, but
just saying that absolutely happened. That's
but
true as I'm sitting here.
Well, that's the point, though, right? And Dave has no percentages in making this up. There's nothing in it for Dave.
No.
And Dave told me the story a long, long time ago, right, as well. So, I mean, again, in fact, most strange things that happen to people don't want to talk about, and people don't want to be identified. Because people tell me strange things all the time. Two of the strangest things I've ever been told, Dave, and I've said this on the air before, was one of my colleagues, a young guy, I mean, youngish guy, you know, but he's pretty switched on. His friends in America working on New York Harbor. They're, cleaning boats or whatever they do. I don't know, maybe they surf drinks. I have no idea, but they're like staff on boats, right? And one of his friends happened to be staffing, if you will, Larry, what's his name? The guy that took the lease out on World Trade Center.
Oh,
Silverstein?
Silverstein, yeah.
Silverstein, yeah. So he was on the boat. That was pre
9/11.
Pre 9/11. Oh no! Sorry, I lied to you. Could have been after.
Oh.
I got a double. But the point is, no, I think it was before. They said that they planned it all, and he overheard the conversation of all the things that they said. Like, this was planned, and we did a good job. And look at this; it's great. I'm going to get $2 billion, etc., etc. Now, this is someone telling me the story from someone that heard it firsthand. So it's a second-hand story, right? But I'm not going to identify anyone here. But that's what this person heard. So Silverstein and his cohorts absolutely were part of the 9/11 attacks, or at the very least took advantage in advance because they knew it was going to happen. So I'm not saying they did it. What I'm saying is they knew it, and they took advantage of the situation, which others did as well. There was short selling and a whole bunch of other stuff that happened that day. In fact, the list of things that happened that day is astounding. So
I know.
It's ridiculous. And another story.
I postulated, Mackie, before we knew anything about it, that if you went down the line of the current, or any of the current scenarios, if there was a planned event, and they were looking for something that would be effective to get buy-in from the people for a war, not unlike that Cuban basketball team plane idea that the CIA had.
Operation Northwoods, yeah.
That's correct. So if there was a modern version of that, and they were looking for people to buy in on it, and they went, oh, hey Larry, do you want to be part of this? Oh, what does it mean? Oh, sure. I don't think there'd be a second guess. They really wouldn't.
No, but that's the thing, though, right? And I mean, and again, it is really important to understand that the parasites view the world and us within it very differently to the way you would.
Yeah, that's right.
It is, and when I say you, I mean the wider audience here. People find it hard, almost inconceivable, to think that their government, their trusted officials, the church, anyone like that, would ever do anything to harm them. Now, we know now for a fact that the church and churches in general, or organizations like the church, have engaged in systematic abuse of indigenous people, of children, of the handicapped, essentially easy victims, right? Easy victims. And the abuse wasn't just sexual; it was physical abuse. There was mental abuse. There was abuse in the form of, almost slave labor type stuff, right? In some cases, but it was massive, globally massive.
Yeah,
and not 1,000 years ago, and in fact, still ongoing.
It was
right?
Today.
And then the other thing is that people think, oh well, religions, they're all kooky anyway. So I'm a rationalist. So I believe in the rule of law and order and the government. Then you look at all the things the government does for you, or not, and you say, the government would never do this. Well, let's be very clear here. The government is people, right? It's not some abstract higher authority of moral judgment and ultimate wisdom. It's just people. It's a bureaucracy, right? And then there's elected officials, right, as well. The politicians, which you can't trust as far as you can spit them. But none of that is these days here to help you anymore. Not really. I mean, we know that, and any government is the same, but I'm just taking a couple of examples here. The United States, we know they put radioactive isotopes in drinking water to see what happens. They actively encourage people to walk into into the aftermath of a nuclear blast to see, well, let's see what happens, right?
And they sprayed chemicals from the top of a building at nighttime to see what would happen. Yeah.
And then there's Montauk, and
that's right.
Universities were in that as well. And again, you say crazy conspiracy. No, the documents exist. You can find them yourselves.
These things actually happened.
Yeah. So these people have no regard for the, because the thing is this, right? Go into a large city or go where there are a lot of people to a concert or whatever. Just go there in a shopping center and just look around. Just don't be part of the crowd. Just be a part and just observe. It is very, very, very easy to become detached and completely dehumanize these people that move about, right? And these people are even more removed than you would be by making that effort. They don't go to the same schools that your children do. They don't participate in the same activities. They don't live in the same area. In most cases, they don't eat the same food. These people are cut apart. They have set themselves apart from the rest to be able to make these judgments. And if it's dynastical, like in a monarchy, for example, then people are born into it. But it doesn't have to be a hereditary royalty. I mean, it's hereditary wealth will do it. All the wealthy families in the world that have had wealth for several generations, that's how they operate. You're born into power and money. You look at the world in a very different way. Okay? And your number one concern is this: to stay in power and money. to have the wealth of nations at your disposal. That's the game. And this is really where we are, Dave. And not to be too gloomy, but I've been doing a lot of thinking about all the things that are happening at the moment, right? Australia just passed 10,000 people allegedly having died from COVID, right? America passed 1 million a little while ago. India, 500,000, which is complete nonsense as far as I'm concerned, but there it is, nonetheless. France and Germany both are around 140, 150,000. UK 180,000. But so that's a component there. Then you've got the leaders of the world. You've got Biden. Hopefully, I'm wearing my pants today. President. You've got Vladimir Putin. You have Xi Jinping. You have well, look, I don't want to go into all the details, but these are all the wrong people at this time. Now, just think about this for a second, though. What do you think the American response would have been if Donald Trump was president instead of Biden? Because Donald Trump was very much aligned with, he thought Vladimir Putin is a great guy, right? And what Donald Trump also did, he withdrew America from the world, to be very clear. So, and all of a sudden, it makes a lot more sense that Russia would have influenced elections in his favor, because having, whether or not Donald Trump was a stooge or not is irrelevant, but his policies made him the perfect American president for Vladimir Putin's agenda. Because the one thing Vladimir Putin doesn't want is anyone opposing him. So, and again, this is not new either. I mean, American presidents like Woodrow Wilson, for example, right? They withdrew America from the world stage, after World War I. Didn't want to bow off the League of Nations. That's not my problem. You guys do what you want. So it's not new, right? The Monroe Doctrine, right? 19th century, America for Americans, and by extension, of course, meaning Europe for Europeans. We got nothing to do here. We got our own problems to work with, So it's not a new American facet of politics. But Trump, if Trump were president now, and because of all the NATO and all the other international treaties that he, didn't want to do anymore and got out of, I think the NATO resolve to stop Russia would be much less, and there would be a lot less aid going from America into Ukraine, right? So it makes sense for Putin to support a Trump presidency, even if Trump doesn't know anything about it. It's relevant, right? But he looks at the world and goes, well, I like Trump better, thinks Putin, because he will withdraw America from the world. Similar with the Chinese, they would think similar things. Now, but the other thing's coming to a head, right? There's a lot of stuff. I mean, Putin, it's just, Dave, we spoke about this at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I thought World War III, highly unlikely.
That's right.
For various reasons. Possible, sure, always possible. And I still maintain that nuclear war is completely impossible.
No, it'll be a global war without nukes.
Yeah, but now I'm hearing it more and more on the mainstream news. It's what they had what was an analyst the other night.
Here we go.
This was BBC Radio, right? And you go, yeah, look, so what could happen here? Well, it could it become a global conflict? And he said, yeah, it's possible. If this escalates, right? If Putin goes on, and or if NATO decides to intervene, or whatever it might be, then yeah, it's absolutely possible that it becomes a global conflict, because then everybody gets drawn in, and then other players will take advantage of certain things. Now the Indians, the Pakistanis, certainly China, definitely. Indonesia,
keep going. Yeah. Any kind of tinder wood out there will just burst into flames.
Yeah, because there would be nobody there to intervene. Because
who's gonna be doing the world policing if you're caught up in a military conflict?
Bingo. It'll be free fall, and
everyone will attack Israel, and Israel will attack everybody.
Yeah, most likely.
Will India go China? Well, at the moment they're tied up in BRICS, which is the digital currency adoption together, which is a bit weird. And China didn't make, they were asked to call sides, and they kind of didn't, meaning they're on Russia's side.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge alliance.
Oh, look, even if it's 10, China's been giving money and military aid to
even
Russia.
If it's only for money, it doesn't matter.
No, I completely agree. So it is a very interesting and extremely volatile situation. The only thing that we don't have, which led to World War I, is secret treaties. All treaties are pretty much out in the open. We know where people stand. Like, we've got a pretty good idea what's going on. So there's no mystery here that NATO is there, and then you've got Russia here.
Would you say
China's
Japan?
over there? Look,
we didn't list Japan, because Japan would be all over
China.
China.
Yeah, and the funny thing is this: So the rapid reaction force, NATO's rapid reaction force, was just increased
to 300,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Standing troops
from 40,000, which is a massive increase.
Yeah, that's right.
Enormous, right?
Well, Britain declared that. Was it Britain? I think it was Britain. Declared that their arms manufacturing go into wartime manufacturing mode.
Yeah, it's wartime production.
Wartime production. Thank you. So that is a huge call.
Yeah, it is.
It didn't happen during the Iraq invasion. Well, sorry, cleansing.
Sure. But that's because this is close to home, right? This is European. Now, the thing is, this Ukraine shares a border with Poland. Mm-hmm. Poland shares a border with Germany. Like, I mean, it's a hop, skip, and jump, and you're at Britain's doorstep.
Yeah,
you are. I mean, so it's so I understand it. Now, the thing is, what has also happened in countries which previously had fairly limited international interest in arms races or
no one cared, right?
Forces. Well, not really, right? So Japan has increased its defense budget. Germany has massively increased its defense budget, and it has now, for the first time, allowed to fight on foreign soil.
That's right.
Germany was never really. Well, I could tell you some stories about that, but I won't. But since World War II, or the end of, Germany wasn't really fighting on. I mean,
that's it. So
you're peacekeepers and such, sure.
Post World War II, there was a number of nations like Japan and Germany who were told to shush it. Right, you're not allowed to do this, and we won't do that. And it wasn't. There was never too much resistance against that because there was no big threat. We lived a pretty reasonable period of calm, where everything was virtual destruction. We could be damaged. It was all potential rather than kinetic. And so now we've got the build up of a kinetic war, where we're looking that the potential is transitioning to kinetic energy. Sorry, I'm a physics guy, and now everyone's dropped all of their banners. They're going, well, my anti-war banner, and Japan, only having rotational winged aircraft carriers. Now they've got fixed wing aircraft carriers.
Yeah,
that didn't take a very long transition.
No, that's true. But
it's like Iron Sky when they say, but when there was a treaty when allowed weapons in space. I think we're going to be okay. And you see every one of the satellites in space morphing like a mech into a weaponized platform. They were already weaponized. Yeah. I think that kind of thing is really funny to see. And look, I have to laugh at it because it is ramping up, and it's ramping up way quicker than I would ever have expected it to happen. And all for the wrong reasons. Yeah, and that's all I see.
And look, but see, the thing is, it's one thing for people to say stuff. Who cares, right? Blah blah blah. Rhetoric. But what we've seen here, for the first time ever, global military spend has actually gone north of $2 trillion. The world, in totality, spent more than $2 trillion this year on arms, right? Number one, United States. Number two, China. Number three, India. Number four, UK. And number five, Russia. These are the top spenders, the top 5 spenders in the world. But everybody pretty much has increased their military budget and made changes to the law. Okay?
Yeah, that's right.
It's really, I mean, the step up that has happened is phenomenal. It really is. I didn't think they would, but now they did. They are, and I'm just I'm surprised, right? It is an unprecedented thing that we're witnessing now because the world is so large and so interdependent. The world has never been this interdependent, and we can see this by the conflict in Ukraine causing food shortages elsewhere in the world. Okay,
it's the butterfly effect of supply chain.
Yeah, and it's only a couple of ports really that are being blocked off here, right? But you can see, and remember when the Suez Canal was blocked by this one ship that went off course?
Yeah,
right. So it's interesting. But you know what's, sorry, on military spending, you know that military expenditure by all the 29 NATO members is about half of global spending. So NATO spends about $1 trillion, all the NATO members.
Wow.
Right? Which, America, of course,
Well,
being the biggest
it's going
chunk, but
up
still.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. So
according to the previous census, yeah.
Yeah, but it is certainly an unusual situation. Now, since we are so interdependent, we haven't really had this. I mean, what will happen? Now, look, the pandemic has given us an inkling as to what might happen when the chips are down. What will happen is that, okay, we will see interrupted supply lines. We will see shortages in supermarkets. We will see uncertainty. We will see price rises, as they are now happening anyway, right? With this, imaginary inflation that we're all having.
Conflation, inflation.
Conflation. Just imagine, Dave, what happens. Right? I mean, this is the situation now. Just imagine when there's a war happening.
Oh,
right?
don't.
I'm talking about a global war.
Yeah,
no, but
yeah.
Look, I mean, the economies, because they're so interdependent, right? I mean, you couldn't ship stuff anymore because it might be destroyed. People might sink it. Who knows?
Okay,
right?
so the risk goes up of having to insure your vessel against being hit. Then that becomes unbelievably expensive. Just the insurance. That's number one. Number two, the oil price of that dirty oil that they use in ships outside of nations' sovereign territories, because it's in some territories it's controlled what your emissions should be, but then there's this truly dirty oil that is it's hideous, clouds of black smoke. You're never going to get it all, and so what they do is they refill the ships outside of those sovereign shipping lanes in sovereign waters in the international water with this terrible dirty cheap oil. All of that will disappear. I'm at the moment, the oil price, Mickey, there's a couple of calls here saying it's going to hit $200 a barrel, just under the disastrous G7 plan that caps Russian prices only in a number of member countries, attempting to try and put a cap on it by trying to impose further sanctions. But they're also talking about it could be as high as $380 a barrel for oil. But the fuel price is obviously relative to the barrel price in a way, with gouging on top of that. And you can't imagine that you would be traveling anywhere by motor vehicle or by motorized boat, because you won't get fuel if there's a war on. It all goes to the war effort. Think about how expensive it's going to be. Let alone food. Food is there's only rations being given to the people who are left in the countries. And if we're looking at World War II as an example, fuel rations, you won't be able to go anywhere or do anything.
My advice is get a bicycle, everybody, or get an electric bike and have a solar charging station. Is my advice if you want to get around.
Until the nuclear winter hits, Mickey, it's okay, right?
Yeah,
I'm not trying to draw a terrible picture of what's going on, even though I am. I'm tracing around it, and the conflict, this ever growing need for a conflict to end up wiping out debt, because the amount of debt in all of the participating countries is so high we can't pay it back. So that's all I see. So going from the COVID, what lessons we learned from COVID? Supply chains, doesn't matter what country, even if the country of origin is the country of origin of the things you've got or not, the elements go up. Even because of China was a huge manufacturer of a lot of materials, even some of the rare earth materials, and combining those into other items that were then part of a supply chain for a completely different product that you didn't even buy. But that product was part of another thing that delayed your parts. So priorities given by those manufacturers to the highest bidder to get to an end product saw, motor vehicle production, 2 years delays, Yeah. Microchips into technology that all disappeared. We're watching crypto dissolve in its own liquid, and all of the video cards that were really highly sought after to power those mining rigs are now tanking. They're really cheap apparently because there's no profit in mining now.
No, there's no point. I mean, you're buying the expensive chip, then you got to pay for electricity, and you have to have the hardware. It's just not worth it at the moment, right?
It's like shale oil right now is really profitable because of the per barrel cost. If you get down to $50 a barrel, shale oil or fracking, is not viable. It's too costly to produce the drop. So, yeah, we're seeing exactly the same things happen now. But Mickey, to counter the shipping of foods all around the world, you just grow locally, right?
Well, look, again, in Australia, we're lucky because 75% of what we actually produce in that sector goes out. So we will not face any massive shortages here because we just keep it, right? Having said that, though, growing locally is going to be impossible for China. Mm-hmm. It's going to be impossible for India. It's going to be impossible for even Russia, to be honest with you, and large tracts of Europe, because they just can't.
It's the double-edged sword of having such a high population.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. They look. Singapore is probably the best example. Everything is imported in Singapore, and there are quite a few countries like that where everything is imported
because they live on every square millimeter of land.
Yeah, that's right. So look, it will be a huge issue going forward, and will bring a lot of hardship, right? And we will see massive population movements, not just occasioned by climate, but occasioned by war, famine, lack of supplies of anything really, not just food, but
water,
heating,
and electricity.
Fuels.
There's a segue, Mackie. I can smell.
Yeah, 100%. And this is really well. There's that, right? No, we'll get to. In fact, we will talk about water at length in a second part of the show. But we are. And you saw this as well. I mean, this is actually I want to probably leave this for the second half. But the Hoover Dam is certainly a big issue, and it's just an indication of all the other problems coming our way, right? Because we're still stuck. We are still stuck in the carbon economy. We are. We can't help ourselves because we haven't made enough of even if you got an electric vehicle, you say, I'm not part of carbon. Yes, you are. Batteries store energy. They don't make it, guys. Okay, batteries. And this energy has to be made by something, most likely by some kind of carbon factory, be it a coal-fired power plant or something else. That's how your electricity is produced and then stored in clean batteries. Yeah, so I feel much better now. So yeah, we're not there yet. And this conflict, I mean, okay, I think Putin is off his rocker. I mean, comparing himself to, Peter the Great, Tsar Peter the Great, and riding on a horse with a bare chest and things like that, you're not too stable. You're not a stable individual. You need to have something checked there. And the thing is this as well, because we know there has been a rumor, a CIA rumor that is, that there was an attempt on his life at the beginning of the year, and then 2 of his aides, mysteriously died of falling through a window. That's not true.
No, they died of suicide, Mickey.
Yeah, that's right. Suicide. Mm-hmm. By the way, Epstein didn't kill himself.
And you've got to be and Ghislaine didn't as well. And you've got to be a really good shot to be able to do a ricochet shot as a suicide that ends up coming through the back of your head.
I'm going down in history as that guy, right? But it is certainly a situation where I don't think Putin would be permitted to escalate this to its ultimate consequence. Will there be a wider war? Quite possibly. But ultimately, the Russian oligarchs, and this is the difference here between a ideology-led autocracy, such as Nazi Germany or fascist Italy or fascist Spain, or even the USSR or communist China back in the day. Not anymore, but back in the day. So if an ideology leads you, then it doesn't really matter how many people you take out of that equation. I mean, even if Hitler had been killed, right, and someone else, like, I don't know, Himmler or Heydrich or someone had moved up in the world and taken that role as Führer, right, as leader of the nation.
I think they would have held the torch.
Yeah, exactly. They would have continued because there's an ideology. There's a belief system here, right? Communism is a belief system, right? Whereas today, there is no belief system. There is no great battle of communism versus capitalism, even though that was hype too. But it doesn't exist. There's the battle of Putin against the West, for example, right? And it's not even all of Russia. It's just Putin. So if you take Putin out of the equation, because this is called Putin's war, even in Russia, this is Putin's war.
Yeah,
you know how they called the COVID-19 China, the China virus? In the same vein, this is Putin's war. And if you take him out of the equation, then I think it'll be good. And the Russian oligarchs are certainly not bound together by an ideology. They don't really care about the past glories of Russia. Not really. I mean, maybe emotionally it'd be nice, be good, but ultimately they care about their comfort and their riches and their lifestyles and making more money. So we are now living in a world where there's these national feelings are not as strong as they used to be. And these national aims aren't as strong or aren't followed as strongly as once they were, because the nations themselves are no longer as strong as they once were. What rules the world are the corporations, right? It's the corporations that really hold ultimately most of the power, and the banking system, corporations. And they don't really care. They don't. A CEO, they will see an opportunity. Oh, there's going to be a war. Ooh, I'm going to short sell some of my stock. Or, I'm going to invest in this or that.
Yeah, their whole goal is to continue living their lifestyle because they've got millions. It doesn't matter. Yeah. You've heard about all the boats getting seized around the world. These are hundreds of $1 million yachts that cost millions of dollars a day to run them. And, they're being seized and their lifestyles are getting squeezed. And I think that's the whole premise around squeezing the oligarchs is because they have such an influence on him. And, the whole time that Putin's saying, Moja Vojna, which is my war.
Oh, very good.
It's I put it in Google Translate and I've hit the play button so I can listen to what it says. So, it's my war, but he's going to be in the padded cell next to Biden, who's been given a plastic button to press, right? And they'll be talking through the bars in the cells, and the whole time Putin's going, "It's my war, it's my war," and Putin's going, "I'll get you," and he presses a button, right? And that doesn't do anything; it's not connected to anything, and they'll both be really happy with each other.
Yeah. And that's probably what you need to do, to be honest with you.
Because I think they're both mad.
Oh, completely. I think they're both. I mean, again, look, we have almost 8 billion people on the planet. We're scratching it. We're getting there, right? 8 billion. It's a lot of people.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And then you look at there are some good leaders, believe it or not. They're actually good leaders in some countries. And you go, wow, how did that happen? No, so he slipped, or she, they slipped through, they fell between the cracks. I couldn't stop them.
Didn't notice.
It's a small country anyway, who cares, right? No, but you look at people like, again, these are people that have risen.
Is it LTPC?
Sure, let's call it.
No, Little Tin Pot Country.
Yes, it is. I love it. But these so Putin, Biden, others as well. They were brought up. They were brought up to believe for certain things. So Putin rose through the ranks of the old USSR, KGB, etc. Biden has been in politics, well, all of his 150 years, pretty much, I think. And all of these people feel removed from the rest of humanity. All of these leaders. Macron in France is a perfect example. He's got no idea what people are thinking.
No, that's right.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And look at you know what?
It's their let them eat cake. Moment.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? No bread? That's okay. Just open the cake cupboard. What? What? Everybody's got a cake cupboard, right?
Sure.
That's what happened. But if you look at in Australia, it's a microcosm, of course, of the world. While I might not be a massive fan of Anthony Albanese, he's a politician. However, he's actually moved on specific things, and he's done actual tangible things to reverse some of the insanity that happened over the past few years. He brought back a family. Go on.
So just to say, the last 10 years was the other party. And,
that's right.
And you could do anything and look good against that last 10 years.
That's where's the bar? We can't see it anymore. I think it's in the earth. The bar is in the earth.
So low.
If you crawl on your belly, you will be above the bar. What?
Even if you were to kill someone live on television, I think it'd still be good.
Yeah.
Anyway, look,
it's insane, but
it is extraordinary.
But
he has a lot of successors coming
I
out
think,
of that.
I think so. I think, look, Albanese has done a great job in his people as well. I really do believe that they've done a lot to reverse a whole bunch of the bad decisions. Can't expect miracles. Can't do that. But very specific things that have been done. I mean, some of them are to grab headlines, sure enough. But ultimately, he goes, okay, we are in the Pacific. Australia is part of the Pacific. You know what? We better talk to our neighbors. So that's what he did, right? You know what? Asia is important to us. We better talk to Asia. So that's what he did. And China's our biggest trading partner, and we better start conversation. And so we have started a dialogue again with the Chinese, right? So these are all good things, believe it or not, for Australia, right? And so my head goes off to him, right? To having done all of that, because Muppet Man would never have done any of it. He was so far into the pockets of. So he did nothing.
He didn't even meet with the Pacific Island nations.
No, and the only thing that he said consistently was, "Oh, that's not my job." Oh,
that's not my job.
No, that's not my job.
I don't hold a hose.
Do you know what erodes confidence in a leader faster than anything else?
Not sure what.
Apathy and Teflon.
Yes.
So a leader that's not engaged and a leader that just goes, yeah, not my problem, really. Not my problem. So people that weave and dug and don't take responsibility, they don't stand up to be counted. And if you're a leader and you don't stand up to be counted, I don't care what the context is, right? Could be a sporting team, could be leader of a nation. It doesn't really matter. If you don't stand up and represent something, where people go, okay, that guy, that girl, yeah, okay, no, I might not agree with them, but at least they're standing up. At least they're being counted here. At least there's some substance. And what we have had for the last few years, there's no substance to it at all. It was just it's like a fog. We were governed by a fog, a vapor, as it were, a really malodorous vapor, at that. And here we are. All of a sudden, we've got someone who's actually a bit more representative. But globally, though, and this is really saddens me to see Mr. Joe. I'm a 150-year-old man, Biden, and then Putin. I'm an insane naked horse rider. And because Xi Jinping, he's actually a smart guy. You look at him; he's not stupid. He used to be a school teacher, but he's looking at the world, going, "Yeah, it's beautiful. Eat each other, NATO and Russia. Yeah, go for it. Do what you need to do. Here, I'll help you all. Here's some tinder for your fire." Because he's not stupid. The Chinese know what they're doing. Now, be aware though. This is really, really important to understand. The Chinese Communist Party is not China. The Chinese Communist Party is not China. If you think our news are controlled and our proverbial shadows on the cave wall are bad, China is worse. The Chinese are kept in complete darkness as to what goes on, really. Right? And it takes some brave people to actually go out and find some news that are worthwhile looking at. And that's what you have to do if you want to control people. You just keep the information away from them. Just keep the information. No, thank you very much. No information. Good. But yeah, dude. But the point is, this is a very, 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 another very dangerous time. And it's also a very complex time. This time that we find ourselves in, everything is moving fast. Everything is moving in directions. It's almost as though people have given up, and you know what? There's going to be a war. You know what? Yeah, that's going to happen. You know, that's what it feels like, Dave. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like people are talking about it now. Yeah, it'll happen. Okay, what? Yeah, because nothing we can do about it. It's like the inevitable slide into World War One. World War One started in the 1880s. That's when it started, right? Even 1870s. With the unification of the German nations, right? 1870s, so for Bismarck. That's where World War One started. And World War Two grew directly out of World War One. Now, World War Three, if we want to call it that, only started becoming imminent after 9/11. 9/11 for me was the trigger point at which, because everything changed. The way we saw ourselves, the way we saw democracy, the way we give our rights up and our right to protest. I mean, they're finding people for protesting now, and then they're arresting people, Dave, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We have a right. We have a democratic right to assemble, and we have a democratic right to protest. Oh, it wasn't it wasn't sanctioned, or it wasn't it didn't go through the right process. I mean, sometimes the protests. Oh no, it might never get sanctioned, but you still want to protest, right? Oh no, we're just not going to allow it. What do you do when your protest isn't allowed? Because you have the right to it. No, you can't go. And then you go anyway. You break the law, right?
And then then that's right, and that's bad.
Yeah. Freedom of the press. I mean, as beleaguered and sad as our press institutions are, they still are there, and some journalists, reporters, they're still trying to do the right thing. Correspondents, they report the truth. I mean, scores are killed every year. Okay, scores. So you can't really deny that they're serious about their job, but their right to report, their right to follow a story, has been severely curtailed, and the single biggest signpost of the death of the freedom of the press is the continued incarceration and now potential extradition of Julian Assange. He did not obtain the documents himself, Dave.
That's right.
They were given him. He published them. Now, if that's a crime, then he's guilty of that crime of publishing information. But he did not engage in acts of espionage to get that. Someone gave him the information.
So it's alleged, and the information was vetted to go to air, and he didn't publish everything. So understanding what was important or too risky or classified, he attempted to not release any classified material that would be dangerous.
Yeah,
he knew the threat, right? But calling out, where's the whistleblower legislation that should protect someone who calls out wrongdoing that's against the law by any organization, being that even that of the government? How come that's illegal? How come calling out something illegal is illegal?
That's insane.
That's what that is.
Yeah. So you're right, though. The protections for the whistleblowers, if they ever existed, have now been completely eroded. I don't know, you should whistleblow. No, you shouldn't. In fact, I can guarantee you that if you're working in a company, corporation, and you whistleblow on someone, you are going to be in the crossfire. Not the person you're blowing your whistle on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I've seen it. Yeah. It's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
They'll find a way to get rid of the whistleblower.
Yeah. And then you go, but these are just people making these decisions. Yeah, but they're people that have been elevated to a position of power where they think, oh yeah, I can do whatever the hell I want. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Guess what? That hour went really fast. But I'll tell you what you can do. You can continue listening to David Mackey's Shiny Sad Art on the other side of the little ad break we're going to have. And in the meantime, push the donate button on the station's website. Make a pledge. Actually, don't pledge. I learned that from Amber Heard. You don't pledge, you donate. Anyway, we'll catch you soon.